Hello everyone, welcome to The Old Man and the Read. My name is Jerry. I'm in the process of shutting down my BookTube channel. I've discovered that I'm really not very good at this, and as I've become, I'm an old man, and it's just more work than an old man wants to do, I think. So, but before I just have a lot of writers I was hoping to do. I think I counted like 64 more of them, and I could do a lot more than that, but I decided to quit. But there's two writers that I thought I should mention or talk about before I actually closed the channel, and they're two of the greatest writers of all time, both Russian, Anton Chekhov and Leo Tolstoy. Just incredible writers, so I thought I would show you the books I've read by them and try to say a little bit about them. The first one I'll show is Anton Chekhov. He was a Russian playwright and short story writer. He lived from 1860 to 1904. And so I'll show you the books. The first one I have is the complete short novels by Anton Chekhov. And this is 5 short novels in one book. The first novel is The Steppe. And this is about a young boy named Uguroshka, I guess. And he's being sent by his mother to a distant village for an education, and is accompanied by his elderly uncle. And the story is basically about their travels across the steppes of Russia to that distant village. The next story is next novel is The Duel. And this is about a man who has run away with a married woman, and after a couple of years he gets into an argument with another man, and that man challenges him to a duel with pistols. In the duel, both men miss, and the man then who had been thinking he didn't love that woman after all, suddenly decides that he does. Their second or third novel in the book is The Story of an Unknown Man. And this is about a man who's working as a servant for a wealthy family. But he's actually an undercover agent who has been sent by a revolutionary group to assassinate that wealthy man. But as he's there, he's having a change of heart on the assassination, and eventually becomes involved with the man's lover, the wealthy man's lover. The next novel I'll mention is titled 3 Years, and this is about a man who falls in love with a woman who doesn't love him in return, but she agrees to marry him anyway. After a short period, they both realize that they've made a mistake, but then over the years that follow, they begin changing their minds. And the last novel in the book is titled My Life, and this is about a young man who is born into an upper class family, but he doesn't want to work in the intellectual field that's usually required for somebody of his status, but wants to work just as a common laborer. The next book is 23 short stories in this book, and it's titled Ward Number 6, and other stories. And the title story, Ward Number 6, follows Dr. Andrei Yefimich, and he's basically bored with his life and doesn't enjoy the company of any of the other people in his community. And he begins visiting a mental asylum and becomes friends with one of the inmates there and enjoys talking with him because of the man's intelligence. But then this association leads to some suspicion by another doctor, and he starts questioning that Yefimich's own sanity. A couple of the other stories in the book, one titled A Dead Body, and this is about two men who are left to watch over a dead body. Then a man who's passing by sees their campfire and comes over to ask directions to a nearby brickyard. And the last story I'll mention is titled Rothschild's Fiddle. And this follows Yakov. He's a coffin maker in a very tiny village. And because the village is so small, he makes very few coffins and so lives in total poverty. But he also plays the fiddle on the side. He finds that he is now dying, and so he decides to give that fiddle to a man named Rothschild. The next book I have is The Best Stories of Anton Chekhov, and this is a book with 12 stories in it. A couple of them that I'll mention. Probably the most well-known of the stories is The Lady with the Dog, and this follows Dmitri. He's on vacation in Yalta, and he meets a woman who's also vacationing there. The two of them become involved in a sexual affair, but then after their vacation they both return to their married lives, thinking that affair is over with now, but then things begin to slowly change. And another story I'll mention is titled The Darling, and this follows a young girl, Olenka, who everybody loves. When she grows up, she meets a man named Kukin, and she marries him, and she agrees with just about everything he says. But then after a few years, he dies. Then she meets a man named Pustovalov, and she ends up marrying him and also agrees with just about everything he says. But then he also dies. And she meets another man later on named Smirnin. He's a married man, but is separated from his wife, and he then is called up by his unit, and he's gone for a number of years. And but after a series, or quite a number of years, she ends up with taking care of the son from that man's marriage. And the last book I have of Chekhov is plays, and this is I think 5 plays in one book. The first one is Ivanov, and this is about a man, Nikolai Ivanov, and he's deeply in debt. He marries a woman named Anna for her money, and but then she begins dying of tuberculosis, but he seems totally indifferent to it. After she dies, he decides to marry a woman named Sasha, and then that's exposed because he's also marrying her for her money. The next play is The Seagull, and this follows Irina and her son Constantine. They've gone to the estate of Soren, and Constantine has written a play to be performed on the estate. But the play is a complete flop, and Constantine becomes suicidal. The next play in the book is titled Uncle Vanya, and this play follows several characters, a professor and his second wife, Yelena, who is much younger than him, and the professor's daughter, Sonia, who by his first wife, and the first wife's brother, Astrov. They all live on the estate, but then the professor decides to sell it. The next play is Three Sisters. This follows Olga, Masha, and Irina, and their brother Andrei, and Andrei's new wife Natasha. But Andrei becomes deeply in debt, and his wife Natasha ends up taking control of everything. And the last play in the book is The Cherry Orchard, and this is about a landowner who has fallen on hard times. She is in debt, and her property that also includes a cherry orchard is to be sold off. But those are the books I read by Leo Tolstoy, or not Leo Tolstoy, Anton Chekhov, and I'll show you the books of Leo Tolstoy I've read here in just a second. Okay, the Leo Tolstoy is regarded as probably one of the all-time greatest writers of all time. He was born in 1828 and died in 1910, and was a Russian writer. So I'll show you the books I've read by him and try to say something about him. The earliest publication I have is Sebastopol. This was published in 1855, and this has it's broken into 3 short fictional stories, and it's about the siege of Sebastopol by the French. But the first part of the book is narrated that it takes the reader, the narrator takes the reader through the hospital wards and the funeral homes of the area. Then the second part of the book is the main characters in this are the officers of the Russian army, and it talks about some of their vanities and some of their heroisms, and it goes through a description of the bombardment of the city by the French. And the third part follows 2 brothers who are on their way to Sebastopol. When they get there, they each go their separate ways, and we get a description of how each of them perishes. The next book is Anna Karenina, published in 1878, and probably one of, if not Tolstoy's most famous books. But this follows Anna Karenina, and Anna's brother has been cheating on his wife, Dolly, and so Anna goes to Moscow to try to help them resolve their situation. But while she's there, she meets a cavalry officer named Vronsky, and they develop a love for each other, but Anna tries to ignore it, and she then returns to her husband. But Vronsky continues to pursue her, and they eventually begin a love affair. Her husband then wants to divorce her, but when she has a baby by Vronsky, he changes his mind. And eventually Anna and Vronsky flee to Italy. Things don't go as well as they had hoped there, and they eventually return. And things just continue to go badly, and it eventually leads to a very tragic ending. There's several other side stories in the book and lots of other characters, but that's basically the summary of the book. The next book is War and Peace, published in 1869, and this is a book I read, I think it was about 1971. I had just graduated from college, and I was living in Portland, and a new bookstore opened there in 1970 or 71, I think it was. I don't recall exactly, but named Powell's, and it was just an incredible bookstore. Right now it's more incredible. It's just they've taken over an entire city block, but it was a store that had all kinds of books that I just had to read, and I think one of the first books I ever purchased from there was War and Peace. But this is an epic tale that's based around Napoleon's invasion of Russia, and it combines a fictional tale with a lot of historical facts. And to me, the book is written so well that the reader just becomes a part of the story. But the first part of the book begins by introducing all of the main characters and just developing all of their personalities. And then it moves on into the impending war, and then on into the war itself. But throughout the book, it's just incredible, and Tolstoy becomes very philosophical with much of what's going on. The next book is The Death of Ivan Ilyich, published in 1886, and another masterpiece by Tolstoy. But this begins with the death of Ivan Ilyich, and then the story begins telling the story of his life and how he had been pursuing wealth and status. But then, while he was hanging curtains, he fell from a ladder. He didn't seem to be seriously injured, but he had a slight pain in his side from that fall. But then, over a period of time, that pain began to increase, and with it, Tolstoy just slowly began increasing the ominous story, and that led to the inevitable end. The next book I have is Resurrection, published in 1899. This follows Dmitry Nikolayevdov, and he is called for jury duty, but once he goes, he discovers that one of the people on trial is a woman he had seduced and abandoned years ago. He finds that he really did love her, and So he tries to do whatever he can to try to get her acquitted. Her relationship with Dmitri had led to the ruin of her life. So now he's feeling remorse and just a sense of responsibility for her. It's also the situation changes him into a more honorable man. And the final book I have to show is Hadjé Marat. This was published in 1912, and this follows Hadjé Marat, and he's a devout Muslim Chechen rebel. He has a falling out with his commander named Shamil, and Shamil has Barat's family taken into captivity. In order to gain the release of his family, Barat decides to join the opposing Russian forces, and he offers to fight with them if the Russians will aid him in getting his family released. But those are the books I've read by Anton Chekhov and Leo Tolstoy. Just two incredible writers who wrote some of the best books around. So I want to thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you on my next video. I'm only doing a couple more. Bye.